We have finally made it. Part 2 has not only come upon us, but it is finally here, or at least it was here for the premiere of Fate Stay Night, Heaven's Feel, Part 2, Lost Butterfly. A lot of people have told me that that's a ridiculous title and that it's way too long. I believe it's just perfect for the type of movie that this is. Anyways, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Grant for One Fair Review. Today we're going to be looking at, well, Fate Stay Night, Heaven's Feel. You already know. If you guys aren't familiar, I did a review on the first Heaven's Feel, Part 1, back in the day, just last year. It was also the infamous review that got me 2 copyright strikes, and yeah, thankfully that doesn't matter anymore because I did fight to get them off and then lose, so I still had them on for 3 months. But whatever, that's all in the past. I've forgiven them. So unfortunately for this video, considering that the movie has not been out and there is no footage of it and there's no footage I can acquire from it, there will only be screenshots. This is mostly just a video about my opinion on the film, on many things, whether it be the film itself and the premiere itself, the premiere experience, theater experience, and audience reaction, which I know all of you are excited to know how the audience was this time. So let's get started and take a deep dive into this film. So, of course, as everybody knows, this came out already in Japan back in January 12th, and it had a very successful release. It earned over $1.5 billion. Just wanted to interrupt myself right here. The movie did not make $1.5 billion. I meant to say yen. It made 1.5 billion yen. A lot faster than Part 1, which earned a lot of money as well. And it did really good. I actually did have a chance, of course I had a chance to watch it in Japan and see the Japanese premiere, but I decided to not do that, considering that since this is a Fate Stay Night, this is going to be a lot of big words, a lot of complicated sentences, so I don't think with my amateur, pathetic Japanese, I would not be able to keep up with the movie, so I decided to wait for the American premiere of the film. So I just came to see that, and that's fine. With subtitles, it's always good. Now, there was many things that I was looking forward to when it came to Fate Stay Night, Heaven's Feel, Part 2, and let's just get into it. So first off, we're going to be talking about the story of the movie itself. The movie was directed by Sudo Tomomori. He did the direction in this film, and of course you have the star actress of the entire movie, Shitaya Noriko, who we've already talked about in our last video, who plays Mato Sakura, the main character of the series. When you really think about it, it's not Emiya Shido. Now, it's kind of hard to really delve deep into the movie without spoiling it, so I'm going to do my very best to be as vague as possible. I am assuming that you guys are somewhat familiar with the story, but that being said, don't worry. There's no spoilers in this review. I will make another review when the movie comes out on Blu-ray, where I will actually do a more in-depth analysis. But this time, this is just going to be my first impressions, my experience of the film in the theater, and whether I recommend it, considering there is a release on March 14th that it will be all around the United States. So let's just get started with the story. The story does, of course, follow almost exactly from where the first film ended. Emiya Shido is still in the temple and stuff happens. The shadow gets a hold of him and then he wakes up at home to where he's greeted by Sakura. Now, I'm not going to give away the story from there on. There's really not much I can say about this story that won't give away anything, but I will talk about it, just how good was the story. As an adaptation, this was fantastic. One thing that the first movie did very well is that it changed a lot of things, and I didn't really talk about certain changes, but it did change things from the visual novel to fit a more movie narrative anime. So it wasn't a problem. It was actually very well done, and the same thing could be said here. In fact, I would say even better. A lot of the changes that were made in terms of characters and in pacing was very much welcomed. One of my more annoyances part of the visual novel is that Tosaka Rin makes a choice in the novel to where she decides to do something, and you don't really see her emotion, obviously, because it's a visual novel, so you don't really see her face, so you don't see her true emotions, and it lasts forever, her decision that she makes. Not going to say what it is. Most of you probably already know what I mean by it. But she makes a choice, and it's just kind of going throughout the entire novel and just makes you kind of annoyed with Rin. It's something that is just kind of like, okay, Rin, this is getting annoying. And it's because the pacing within the game is a lot different. With the movie, it lasts probably just a couple like minutes, maybe 10 minutes, and it's very effective, especially because the animation done with the character, the way they draw her, the way that they show her expressing, and the voice actress behind it does such a great job of conveying the emotions that you know exactly what she's going through, that she does not like the decision that she has chosen. And it doesn't last that long. It doesn't really affect the plot for as much time as it did in the visual novel. And that's only one example. There are many other examples of this movie just going above and beyond, doing stuff better than the visual novel, which the visual novel aspect of Heaven's Feel is perfect. Well, not perfect. It's great as it is, but they seem to really excel and just change things around that makes it fit more of a movie format and a movie structure, and it really works. I was very impressed with the pacing of this movie and the characters as we progress throughout the film. Now, of course, as everybody should know, the movie is mainly about Sakura and Shido, their relationship between each other. Just kind of like in Unlimited Blade Works, the story was more focused on Tosaka Rin and Emiya Shido's relationship, but also had the backstory of Archer, who was pretty much the star of Unlimited Blade Works. Here, obviously, Archer does not have a huge role whatsoever. Well, he does, kind of, but not going to spoil it. But all of the characters in Heaven's Feel particularly, always seem like side characters in this movie, at least. None of them really play a huge role, if you kind of know what I'm trying to say. Obviously, they have a role. Obviously, they have a purpose. But the story is focused on Sakura. She is the star of the movie, and her relationship with Shido as it grows. That's exactly what this film focuses on. It doesn't focus on anything else in particular. It doesn't really focus on the Holy Grail War. It just focuses on their relationship, which is very appropriate. After all, this is based on the visual novel, which was somewhat of a dating experience. That being said, I have to say, unlike Heaven's Feel Part 1, which was a much more sweet story at times with its darker moments, Part 2 is the epitome of slitting your wrists after you leave the theater. This movie's tone is very... Joy is not the word I would use to describe this film. I would more use words like the depression, stress, tension. I would use disturbing. I would use horror, thriller. In fact, that's probably the main theme of the movie. This is not an action-adventure film whatsoever. It is more of a horror thriller. And it's downright disturbing and disgusting at times. And wow, did they do a great job at that. It is really remarkable how there's shifting tones from the first movie, which was already a dark film, into a much darker film here. And I thought the first film was already really dark, and this one is just unbelievable. Now, I'm not here to talk about how dark this movie is. I think everybody kind of expects that from Heaven's Feel, especially the Part 2 segment. But it is one thing that does need to be mentioned. You shouldn't go into this movie expecting an action-packed movie. It's just not what it is. Of course, there is action, big segments of action, or one big segment of action that's really amazing, which everybody should know, is the Berserker versus Saber Alter fight, which is absolutely spectacular, but I will get to that in a minute. But other than that, the movie does not focus on action, and that's a really good thing. It focuses on the story, the narrative between the two characters, Emiya Shido and Mato Sakura. One thing I don't really like about Shido, in terms of a character in general, is that Shido can kind of have the boring main character side to him. Sometimes, not all the time. But the problem with Emiya Shido that I've had in the past is that he's essentially just a person who is perfect, wants to do everything for everybody else, is not selfish in the slightest, and wants to become a hero of justice. And that's kind of Emiya Shido in a nutshell. That's oversimplifying him, of course, but like I said, it's not a big flaw that happens. I still like him as a character. However, in the other works, there are much more interesting characters around him. Same thing can be said here. There are much more interesting characters around him again. But what I like about Heaven's Feel is that it is a much different Shido. He's very much not the hero of justice that we really expect him to be. He is very much selfish. Selfish in what he wants and what he wants to accomplish, and the reasons for him becoming a hero of justice all changes. And there are certain aspects of this film that you will see a different Shido because he is very much different. His relationship with Sakura is a much more not sweet but very disturbing thing to see, and it's very sad at times. Did I mention this movie is depressing? I think I did. But besides that, I really like the character Shido in this movie because he is so much more relatable, and I'm not going to explain exactly why. You'll have to wait for my spoilers review later on in the year when that comes out, but it is a much more interesting take on the character, which makes him more interesting, more likable, more relatable to follow in this particular story. And considering that it's really, the movie is mainly focused on Sakura and Shido, it is one of those things where it's like, yeah, if he did not work as a character, the movie would not work as well as it does. Unfortunately, like I said, I can't talk too much about the story because I'll be spoiling a lot. And just to leave it at this, the story is very good. It's a terrific adaptation of the visual novel. I think we all kind of expected that. And it exceeds the first one, not just in its tone and its theme and its darker theme, its depression, its horrible amounts of anguish in this film, but it is a much better told story. They do improve the pacing, they do improve certain aspects, and the voice actors and actresses behind the characters really gave this movie their all. All the characters do a great job, all the voice acting is terrific, even more so than usual. You can really feel the emotional weight put upon the characters as well as the audience every time they talk. It is miraculous. It is beautiful. The movie is quite amazing, and it is a very art housey, avant-garde type movie that is kind of a horror and thriller tone to it. And that's really all I could say about the story without giving away too much. So moving on from that, let's just get into the presentation of the anime. To start off with, let's talk about the animation. Now, the animation from Fate Heaven's Feel Part 1, I already said was terrific. It was absolutely outstanding, and I consider it to be almost perfect animation. Obviously, this is from Ufotable. They really know what they're doing, and they're just great. And the animators behind this movie, after all, they did not get a Christmas or a New Year's Eve break, so they really went all out with this movie. I didn't really expect them to improve upon much, but considering if they had just left it how it was in Heaven's Feel Part 1, I wouldn't complain. But considering that they actually improved on certain aspects of Heaven's Feel Part 1, it's actually incredible how they went above and beyond. A few examples of those improvements is the CGI animation. Whereas in the first movie it is used very sparingly, usually just between the fight scenes. It looks good. It looks good. They did a great job with the CGI, blending it with 2D. That's something that they've almost perfected. But here it's actually used a lot more often throughout the entire film, even in scenes that are in action, considering this movie doesn't have that many action scenes to begin with. But what's really great is that they really improved upon it, making it look, just blend in more to the background. Yes, you notice it, but it's not a distracting kind of noticeable. It's a visual kind of, oh, you can see that it's CGI. If I'm gonna be honest, it's not something that I really was distracted by. It was something that was just brought to our attention because the scene will just look different. It'll be like, oh, this scene looks different. That must be CGI. And they blended it very well, and they made it very unnerving and uncomfortable, which was the feeling that the atmosphere was supposed to give off from the animation when they used the CGI. And then, of course, there is the CGI in the fight scenes, which blend very well. Besides one moment in the theater where I was like, oh, that doesn't look particularly great, but it lasted for a few frames of animation, and that really just amounts to a few seconds of screen time. So besides that, the animation behind the CGI was actually very much improved upon and used more often throughout the film. But of course, it wasn't just the 3D animation or CGI animation, but it was the 2D animation. The first frame of this movie is almost photorealistic, and I'm not joking when I say that. It was nearly photorealistic. It looked incredible. I couldn't believe that that was an animation. Of course, there weren't characters on screen. There wasn't really much going on. It was more of a still image, but the animation behind it, the drawing itself was quite gorgeous on the temple. And there are certain aspects of these movies where the highlight of animation really shines. The temple, for one, being a beautiful shot. There's, of course, the Berserker versus Altura fight scene, which is absolutely remarkable. There is Sakura's dream sequence, which looks phenomenal. There's so many examples of just great animation in this movie that I can list off. Of course, I can't show you other than screenshots, but just take my word, it looks really, really good and really worth the time to watch the film just on the animation alone. Moving on, we have the soundtrack. Of course, the soundtrack's great. It's phenomenal. I can't believe that they just knock it out of the park every time, and this one's no exception. I can't wait to get the soundtrack to this movie. I think this is another thing that just should be expected by Ufotable, or not Ufotable, but from the Fate Stay Night series. They always have terrific soundtracks. This one's no exception. The main theme of the movie is really, really good. I would show you, except I don't want to get copyrighted, so you can look it up yourself. And of course, the music, the ambience music and the atmosphere that sets the tone for the horror thriller anime that it is. And then of course there's the more cheerful kind of somber music out there that is kind of joyful but also very dark and bleak. Like I said, this movie's theme and tone is very bleak, very dark, so you're not going to get so much joyful moments throughout this movie. In fact, it's not that funny to begin with. And I will talk about that later on, but just know the soundtrack is amazing. I really wish I could talk more about the movie, but I can't, and I think I'm going to have to leave it there when it comes to talking about the movie itself. And we're going to move on into the theater and premiere experience section of my video, which I did in the first part of my first Heaven's Feel review, so I changed it up because I know a lot of people were kind of annoyed by that. So we're going to move on to the theater and premiere experience. Obviously, this is very important, and this is what you guys want to know. After all, it is coming out March 14th. Do you want to go watch the movie? That's the question that you should be asking, and I'm going to tell you whether it's worth it or not. In terms of the theater experience, Fate Stay Night Heaven's Feel Part 2 is phenomenal. And one thing is that, yes, the animation's really good seen on the big screen. Of course, all that's great, the story, the music. But one thing I want you guys to pay attention if you watch this in the theater is the sound design. Excuse me, I had a little bit of trouble there, but yes, the sound design is what I want you guys to pay attention to the most in this movie. Mostly because the sound design is absolutely incredible. And I know that might sound weird, like, oh, in an anime film you want us to pay attention to the sound design. Yes, I do. The ambience in the air that just goes throughout the theater is absolutely astonishing. It really does set the atmosphere for the movie and the tone. The music is obviously great, but the sound design really shines within the Berserker versus Altura, I keep saying Altura, and the Alter fight scene. It is absolutely remarkable. I haven't felt an explosion in a theater for a long time. When these giant explosions happen, you hear and feel it. It's a very big wow factor of the movie. I had such a great time looking at that action scene, and the action scene in and of itself is really, really good, and it really showcases the strength of the servants in the Fate Stay Night universe, or just in the Fate universes in general. These are like two gods going up against each other, and the destruction, the noise, the explosions, the mayhem that is caused in the scene really showcases the excellent sound design of the film. Overall, I believe the theater experience to be very much worth your while. One thing that the theater will always give you is a good understanding of how the sound design was taken care of in a film, and this one was very well done. The sound mixing, the sound design was terrific, the soundtrack was terrific, and that's the thing that I want you guys to pay attention to if you watch this in the theater, and I do recommend you watch this in the theater. It's really, really good. The sound design is expertly crafted. I was very, very impressed with it. As far as the premiere experience, it was a big theater. That's really all I can say. And in the beginning, the producer of the film and the lead actress, Shitaya Noriko, did come out, say a few words. They did talk about what they wanted us to pay attention to in the movie. They said pay attention to Sakura's emotions, obviously, but they also said pay attention to Shinji, which is Mato Shinji, which is her brother. They said something funny, saying that, like, hey, maybe this will give you a different look on Shinji as a character. Maybe you might like him based on this movie, to which everybody in the audience kind of agreed, no, that's probably not going to be the case. If you know anything about Mato Shinji, you know that he is a horrible, despicable human being, and even if he has a horrible past, it doesn't excuse him of the horrible things that he does in this film, which I will get to a little bit later because it is a little bit of a touchy subject, but just know that that was a funny little moment how they said, yes, you should pay attention. Even Noriko said herself that her brother is pathetic, but you might sympathize or you might like him more in this film, which was not the case. Now, I know what they mean. Obviously, you can sympathize with the character, but other than that, they didn't really talk about much else. The producer said pay attention to the Berserker versus Saber Alter scene because it was really cool. Those were his exact words. And pay attention to the relationship of Sakura and Shido, and which is the main purpose of the film. So that's really all they had to say. Nothing too special about the premiere itself. But what was special was the audience reaction, which, oh boy, let's get into that. If you guys aren't familiar with my first review on Heaven's Feel Part 1, let me give you a little bit of a rundown. It was a horrible theater experience, probably one of the worst theater experiences of my life due to the audience reaction to the film. No, not the after reaction, I mean during the film, people being disrespectful and being annoying. It's one of the worst I've ever had, and it really did hinder my enjoyment of the film of Heaven's Feel Part 1. So going into this movie, I did say on the community tab here on YouTube, that was one of the biggest things I wanted to look for, the audience reaction during the movie. And a lot of you have been asking, how will it be? Some people have asked me in general, how was the audience reaction? And you can't wait, I bet all of you can't wait to hear how it was this time around. And I will say this, for the first 20 minutes of the movie, it was much, much better. I will say this, it was a much better experience overall with the audience. The audience wasn't as annoying as it was in the first place. Nobody was yelling at my brother because he wanted to go to the bathroom. Nobody stood up in front of me because they spilled their drink on my shoe. Nobody was talking about Overwatch behind me, and nobody was yelling at the screen. And nobody was doing dumb crap in front of us. So, thankfully, that didn't happen here. But there was a lot of things that did happen, such as laughter. Let me clarify, I have no problem with laughing at a movie. If a movie is funny, of course people are going to laugh. I will laugh. In terms of Fate Stay Night Heaven's Feel Part 2, there are selective moments that are funny, that are kind of funny. For instance, Ryder sitting at a table about to eat, that moment is funny. Shido introducing a bunch of girls to Sakura, that's funny. Of course, within the context of the film, it's funny, not so much me describing it. Of course, I'm being vague. There are small moments in this movie that are kind of funny. Certain things characters will say that are kind of humorous, or certain cutesy moments from, say, Elia can be a little bit funny. But for the most part, this movie will not make you laugh. Its intention isn't to make you laugh, and there's not many funny character moments in it. So when people laugh at those, I have no problem. However, there are certain times where people laugh that is completely not only inappropriate, but disrespectful to the people who made the movie in general. And oh boy, I can't believe I'm going to say this. Hopefully YouTube doesn't demonetize this video, but certain moments in this movie has to deal with rape. Let's just say that. I'm going to be very vague. There are certain moments in this movie that have to do with rape, and people laugh. There are certain moments in this movie about Sakura really just crying and talking about horrible things that have happened to her and saying some obscene shit, and people laughed. Sakura's pouring her heart out to Shido, people laugh. There is a rape scene in this movie that happens, people laugh. There are things that characters do in this movie that is obscene, disturbing, and people laugh. There is the obvious sex scene that is in this movie that is very tastefully done, very good, and it is the emotional pivot point in the movie, the emotional pivot turning point in the movie, that sex scene between Emiya Shido and Mato Sakura, and people laugh. There are certain things that Sakura says where she talks about being raped and people laugh. Oh my god. And then there is an obscene act that Sakura does in the movie, Not gonna say exactly what it is, but let's just say it's let's just say she touches herself. Well, yeah, let's just say that, and people laugh. None of the things that I'm saying right now are particularly funny in the movie. It's very disturbing, in fact, how it's told. Now, I'm no prude, believe me. If something is sexual and funny, it's fine. Or if something is very obscene and funny, it's fine. I laugh at many obscene things myself. But when something is trying to be serious, especially like this, laughing at these moments is very inappropriate and disrespectful. I almost felt embarrassed throughout the movie to be an American, even though I am proud to call myself an American citizen. And no, I will never give up my American citizen. I'm talking to you, Shogo. That's never gonna happen. Never gonna get rid of that. But I am proud to be an American citizen, but there are certain times where I am not proud, and this was one of the times. I was embarrassed because people were laughing so damn much. Yes, they're not the French, which the French will laugh at literally anything, but the actress and the producer and another actor who's not a part of the movie, but they were in this theater with us. They heard the audience reaction, and before the movie started, Shitaya Noriko said that she gave it her all. She put all her heart and soul into this character. She did everything she could to make this movie work. And you can tell everybody worked so hard to make these moments powerful, and the audience is laughing. They're reacting with laughter. It's just not appropriate, and it's distracting beyond belief. Again, I have no problem if you're laughing at things that are actually funny, but this is not funny. Now, thankfully, like I said, the beginning of the movie, everyone was silent. The end of the movie, everybody was silent when it got really serious. However, there are moments in the middle that just aren't funny, and I don't know, I don't find rape funny. I'm not a prude, but that's just not something that I will ever think is funny. And I don't think people admitting something that is obscene is funny. It's sad. It's sad, and that's how you're supposed to take it, especially from a character that is pouring their heart and soul out to another character because they love them. It's not funny. That's really all I have to say about the audience reaction. I know you guys were probably wondering what the hell happened during this movie, and yeah, there was some annoying things. People did laugh, but other than that, it was fine, and that's all I have to say on that. Now, before I wrap up this movie review and give my final thoughts and recommendation, let's talk about the biggest highlight of watching Fate Stay Night Heaven's Feel Part 2. And the biggest highlight of watching Fate Stay Night Heaven's Feel Part 2 was meeting Shitaya Noriko. Oh my god, what a highlight this was. Now, I've seen your guys' comments. Some of you are surprised. Some of you think I'm lying or think it's impossible. Yes, you are right. It is normally impossible. And I didn't meet her the day of the premiere, and I didn't get to talk to her the day of the premiere, obviously, because I just couldn't. You can't do that. However, there was a Fate event going on at the time, and she was at the event. And during this time, I went to this event with 2 other people, and I bought a few things, of course. That's why we went there. I bought a canvas of Fate Stay Night Heaven's Feel Part 2, and I was walking on the streets of the scary streets of Los Angeles when I saw a group of people. Now, I paid no attention to them at first. They were just waiting on the street, and we stood next to them waiting on the street as well. But once I looked at them, I realized, wait a minute, these are not just ordinary people. This is the actress of Sakura, Shitaya Noriko. Oh my god, she's right next to me. And not only that, but also people who worked on the movie. They seem to be just waiting on the street. Now, before I go on with this story, I just want to tell you guys right now a bit of advice. And this goes in general for anything. Never go up to a celebrity or somebody you're a big fan of while they're on the street. I'm not saying anything particularly bad happened to us, but it's just not something you should do. And it's something that obviously I tried to not do, but ended up doing anyways because we were standing next to each other, so you can't help it. But normally, just don't do that to people who are celebrities or who are famous or who you particularly like. It is kind of weird. It's never going to be really acceptable because nobody wants to be stopped on the street. That being said, Shitaya Noriko was a very sweet person. She was very much willing to talk about Fate, very much willing to talk about her experience in the United States so far. Very much willing to talk about how much she liked the event and how much she was having fun. She is a very sweet and lovely person who was willing to talk to me, even though my Japanese sounds absolutely trash and is very broken. So she was very patient, I have to give her that. And it was very fun talking to her for the minute or two that I was. And of course, the next thing that happened was absolutely stupid. You see, I had my canvas out at the time, and I decided, why not ask for a signature? Now, before I go on with the story, listen. For anybody else who finds somebody who is famous or who is a celebrity in Japan specifically, mainly a voice actress or a voice actor, do not go up to them and ask for their signature. More often than not, they are not allowed to give out their signature willy-nilly, mainly because their signature is very important, and the manager that they might have is not okay with them giving it out to anybody. Now, I knowing this, and being in the group that I was, all of us knowing this, I still took that chance, mainly because I was excited to do that, and it was a dumb move. Again, nothing particularly bad happened, but I'm just saying, for future reference, do not do that, because it's not rude, it won't be perceived as rude, but it's an awkward moment. But I have to give it to Shitaya Noriko. She was very much willing to do it. In fact, she was very excited. She was like, oh, do you have a pen? She started asking everybody else, oh, do you have a pen? Do you have a pen? Like, everybody that was around her. Now, one jerk managed to ruin this moment for me, and I couldn't get the signature in the end because her manager came out. And once he figured out what she was trying to do, he said, oh, no, she can't do that. What a jerk. We made fun of him the whole day, and we hate him now, and we're no longer fans of Noriko. Of course, I'm kidding. I still love Shitaya Noriko-san. She's really a sweet person, and her manager, like, honestly, guys, he wasn't a dick about it. He was actually very sorry. He said, "Oh, sorry, she can't give it away. I'm really sorry about that. She's not allowed." And Shitaya Noriko said, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry." Like, she was very nice about it. Like, everybody was nice about it. They just said, "Yeah, you can't have the signature." Like I said, it was a very embarrassing moment, because especially because I knew that you can't do that, and I still attempted it. So, just a piece of advice, guys: do not ask Japanese celebrities for their signature. Most of the time it won't go well. I'm sure I would have gotten her signature if I had a pen, if I had a Sharpie with me at the moment, and her manager did not come out of this one building. But considering he was there, he was the one who shut it down, and I have complete respect for the guy. He was doing his job. He's not a bad guy. He said he was sorry, but she couldn't do it. And that was the highlight, as you guys can know, me being humiliated by a celebrity, and they're probably making fun of my Japanese to this day. But it's okay, because we watched a great movie. So, my final thoughts on Fate Stay Night Heaven's Feel Part 2 Lost Butterfly. What are they? The movie's terrific. The story adaptation is very well done. It adapts certain things from the visual novel into a movie format that work better. I gave a few examples before. The characters are all great. The voice acting's terrific. The animation is as good as always, and they even improved upon it, which, honestly, in the end, I probably wouldn't mind if they just kept it the same formula, but they improved upon it. I have great respect for them. Soundtrack is even better than ever. The main theme was terrific. I wish I could show you guys, but copyright claims, so no, I won't. In terms of a theater experience, I really do recommend you guys watch this in the theater if you get the chance. March 14th, mark your calendars. It will be in theaters across the United States. Really try to get to this movie if you have the chance. It's really amazing. The sound design specifically, I want you guys to pay attention to when you watch it. It's terrific. In terms of the audience reactions and the premiere itself, the premiere was great. It was very fun to watch it. We even got some special art, special things at the premiere, which, I mean, I've done that before, so it's kind of more the same. Audience reaction, a little bit annoying, but I'm pretty sure that was just for the premiere. I don't think it's going to be like that forever. But I still recommend you guys go to the theater. Again, for the sound design alone, it's terrific. And even if you don't, you're going to have to wait for the Blu-ray to come out, which will be very annoying. If it wasn't for meeting Shitaya Noriko-san, I would say that the highlight of my weekend was definitely watching the premiere of this movie, but of course I did meet her, and she's the sweetest person in the world. She's very awesome, and I was very much appreciative that she ended up talking to me, even though I spoke like an idiot. Other than that, my final thoughts on Heaven's Feel Part 2, final verdict would be a 10 out of 10. What did you guys expect? Did you expect me to give it a bad review? No, because this movie does everything that the first one did, but even better. So I definitely suggest watching this in the theater on March 14th. If you guys have the chance. It's going to be one day, maybe another day if it does really, really good. I hope it gets another day just so then more of you can watch it. Other than that, you could probably get the collector's edition Blu-ray that will be eventually coming out. I know I will. And as for that, I'm going to have to end the video, and this is one of my longest reviews I've done in a while. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I appreciate the support every day that I see you guys watching the videos, commenting on them. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm Grant for One Fair Review. If you haven't already, please like, comment, and subscribe. It really helps out. Maybe hit that bell notification thing. I've never said that, but please do that so then you can see the videos firsthand. We got some great videos coming out in the next coming weeks. I hope you guys are excited. And as for me, this is it. Let's bring it on. Bring it on, Heaven's Feel Part 3. I can't wait. And I will also do a review on the Blu-ray when it comes out, the collector's edition Blu-ray when it comes out, so be expecting that. Thank you guys so much. As always, have a nice day, and I'll see you next time on One Fair Review.